KYCA show. Jason Zinzilieta with you here at the News 1490, the luxurious studios on the banks of Granite Creek. We hope you're having a great day out there. And now I've got to get online because this kind of caught me off guard. I got to get set for Facebook here so you folks can watch as well. We are live streaming today, and we want to welcome you, all of you who are watching on our website, kyca.info, as well as our Facebook page. There we go. It's amazing what technology does these days. Didn't know we'd be a TV station, but here we are. Phone lines are open, 928-541-1016. I want to thank you all for joining us, of course. Don't forget, Karen Fan's in the house tomorrow afternoon, and we've got a full lineup of local shows as well. All right, we are back up and running. I tell you, technology is just amazing. Well, technology is being brought to bear on our guest as well. Asgar?
Yeah, it's
Ansgar.
Ansgar.
Ansgar, thank you. Ansgar Mitchell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. You see, I didn't even take the time to write that down. I'm sorry. You don't write it, you forget all about it when the mic goes on. Ansgar Mitchell of the Prescott National Forest. What's your position there?
Yeah, so I'm a Fire Prevention Assistant Fire Management Officer for the Bradshaw and Chino Valley Ranger District.
Okay, so there you go. That's why we're having him in today. We want to talk to everybody about the forest, what's going on with fire suppression, fire mitigation, and also the fact that we are in stage 1 restrictions right now. So we wanted to kind of go over this with everybody, get them kind of warmed up, so to speak, for fire season. And of course, you're here to answer questions as well concerning the forest, fire management, or anything there. So again, 928-541-1016. Okay. So, Ansgar, of course, as you said, we're in stage 1 restrictions now, and there's several things we want to talk about. Where do you want to lead off today?
Yeah, so just kind of a couple of things that, what is leading or what led up to the decision to go into stage 1 fire restrictions. And, a lot of it is, I think anybody in the Southwest here can tell that it's getting hot.
Yep.
And it's getting dry. We're seeing a lot of activity throughout the southwestern region with, several fires in the Tano National Forest, and then over the last few weeks, we've seen a little bit of activity with fires here in the Prescott area as well, traveling up and down the corridor of the I-17 or even I-40 coming from Kingman over in this direction. There has been wildfires over the last few weeks. So,
okay.
And what that means is, usually with a pickup in activity like that, all of our geographic areas, they start to kind of get together and have these conversations about, should we go into fire restrictions?
Right.
And there's a lot of factors that are included in there, the economic impact, the socio-political types of impacts, and just, restricting public lands from our communities and anybody else wanting to come up to use them. So,
Well, I talked to you before the interview here, and I had the feeling that, to me, over the years, especially since some of the bigger fires that we've seen, from the Indian fire 20 years ago to the Rodeo Chetasky fire, the Goodwin fire that we had here just a few years ago, people, I hate to say it, call it fire-wise, but it's true. People are, I think, a lot more educated about fires and seem to be a little more careful concerning defensible space, their own homes. And I think you get a better understanding from people when these restrictions start taking effect. I think they're getting used to it, and it's necessary.
Yeah, and I would agree. And really, I think people are getting used to it, to the fact of where they're saying, why don't we do it sooner?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing it now? As of June 6th at 8 a.m., that's when the Prescott National Forest went into the stage 1 fire restrictions. And, again, these are public lands, and those considerations, whether, we choose to restrict them, come with a lot of considerations. So,
So tell us about the process a little bit, because it seems that in the last several years, we were kind of heading into stage 1 restrictions at or before Memorial Day. This year, a little bit later. Obviously, the weather was cooperative a little bit more. Things dried out a little bit. It took a little longer to dry out. But again, within a week, here we were. As you said, June 6th, things got underway. So what's the process? What goes into this? And then let's talk about the restrictions themselves. People understand them a little better.
Right. Yeah, so as far as the process goes, every year is different. And, as you were referencing timelines, last year We had a relatively wetter winter. This year wasn't as wet as the previous one. So we're really looking at our fuels conditions within the national forest, whether they're drying out to where they're going to be really receptive to any type of ignition source, whether it be from recreational target shooting to people driving up and down the road and maybe dragging chains and creating a spark that way. So, we're looking at the current fuels conditions. We're looking at kind of activity and the amount of resources it would take to suppress a wildfire from becoming a larger wildfire.
And I imagine that conversation continues now as we're nowhere near monsoons yet.
Correct. Yeah, and those conversations happen weekly. There's a forest leadership across the state that are looking at all of those factors. They're looking at fire activity. They're looking at resource allocation. They're looking at conditions on the across the forest in the southwestern region.
Mm-hmm.
And as those decisions are made at that level, and then come down to the district level to where where we know whether or not we're going to either go into restrictions or come out of them or just maintain what we have.
Now, when the restrictions came down on June 6th, this was something that everybody came together and said, okay, from the municipalities to the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority, the Prescott Fire Department, the county itself, the Forest Service, pretty much everybody was on the same page. We're going to just put restrictions across the board throughout the county. Who generally takes the lead? Is this kind of the National Forest Service that comes together and says we really need to start looking in this direction and kind of leads the municipalities and the more local governments?
Yeah, I would say so, and we definitely sit down with them, and it is a collaborative, coordinated effort to where everybody, again, much like those conversations happening across the state with the other forests, they're happening here with our local partners as well, and making sure everyone is in agreement. Yep, let's do this. This makes sense.
Well, of course, with Yavapai County, a great deal of it is under National Forest Service jurisdiction as well. I mean, we're talking about a very big county, but a very big forest.
Right. Yeah. If you're new to the area, the Prescott National Forest is 1.25 million acres, where roughly the Bradshaw Chino districts are just, I want to say, over 860,000 acres. So,
wow.
Yes.
That's a very large part of the county, of a big county for that matter.
Right.
And it's not just trees, it's scrub, it's all sorts of different fuels from grasslands all the way up to conifers and pine trees. I mean,
Yep.
You've got the whole gamut in the Forest Service here locally.
Yeah, I mean, from the Sonoran Desert to all those other fuel types as well, and what that brings is, all forms of recreation and use on the public lands, from off-wheel or over 4x4 off-roading, or people going out and prospecting to any form of outdoor really recreation on the public lands. So.
Okay, so since we're in stage 1 restrictions, why don't you go over that, let people know kind of what to expect if they've never been here before. We've always got a lot of visitors. We've always got a lot of people who are here for the first time, and they might not have ever experienced this. If they've come from back east, if they've lived in a more wetter area such as Florida or the eastern seaboard, they're not used to this. So what does stage 1 restrictions mean for everybody here?
Yeah, so what I'm going to read off here is I'm going to, read word for word real quick what the actual order it says.
Okay.
And then I'll kind of cover it in just, a little more of a paraphrased explanation. So,
okay.
For this year's stage 1 order, it says that, prohibitions for number 1 would be building, maintaining, attending, using a fire, campfire, or stove fire, including charcoal and briquettes outside of a fire structure that is provided by the Forest Service within a designated area. List of designated areas are provided in Exhibit C.
Okay.
So number 1 right there. So what that means is, have you ever been camping down Thumb Butte Loop Road?
Yes.
So that would be considered what is dispersed camping.
Okay.
So or designated dispersed. Some of those areas have a metal ring at them, and there's sometimes some confusion where people are asking, like, well, there's a metal ring there. I'm at a designated site, but those are dispersed camping areas.
Okay.
In the order, what it's meaning is that they need to be at a developed recreation area. So
Okay. So you're talking about possibly restrooms, concrete slabs in some campsites, things like that.
correct, and or day use areas as well, like South Shore where there's the fixed metal steel barbecues and also steel fire pit rings as well. Thumb Butte day use area is another example
Mhm.
of a developed recreation site. Or as far as camping, there's Hilltop Campground, Lynx Lake Campground, much like you said, where there's those restrooms, slabs, and steel rings that are provided there.
Okay.
So that's to kind of clear up anything with that, because it can be a little confusing as far as what a designated or developed recreation site is.
Okay. And then you have other things such as smoking and discharging a firearm.
Right.
And that almost seems like common sense, but it's still something you have to spell out.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, so smoking, we're not saying that, you absolutely cannot smoke, because everybody does, or not everybody, but there's
Quite
a
a
good
few.
there's a good population out there that does smoke, and out there in the forest. When they are out there, we're just saying that you need to be in your vehicle using an ashtray or some kind of receptacle to put your ashes in, or you need to be outside in an area free of any type of flammable vegetation within 3 feet or greater. So bare dirt.
Okay.
I did a video on our forest Facebook page a couple of days ago where I tried to display what that looks like. I mean, free barren dirt area.
Yeah.
So
Yep. And then discharging a firearm, any type of firearm, air rifle, gas gun, anything like that. That brass gets hot, obviously. So,
yep.
and that within the boundaries of the forest or within the boundaries of any place that has restrictions. And that right now, that's Yavapai County.
Right.
So, okay.
Yeah. And so as far as discharging a firearm, that includes, a lot of people will have been down to Dosey Pit, which is a very popular shooting pit on the forest, at least on the Bradshaw side of the forest. That area is down Iron Springs, and we come across it every year, or much like the years. I want to say it was in 2013 when the Dosey fire did occur.
Mm-hmm.
It came from that area where it's a very popular shooting. It has been known to cause wildfires, whether people are shooting explosives, which is actually illegal in the national forest. People shoot tannerite all the time. And a lot of times when they're out shooting, they could be shooting steel plates where it has been known to
cause a spark or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take our first break here on KYCA. So Ansgar Mitchell from the National Forest Service, we're going to keep on going. We've got a lot more to cover. And for those of you, if you have a question on anything, 928-541-1016, that is our number. You can talk to us directly and be on the show and say hi. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more on KYCA PM after this. Back on the KYCA PM show, welcome. Jason Zinzilieta sitting in with Ansgar Mitchell from the National Forest Service talking about fire and all the things you shouldn't be doing with it, all right, which is basically everything. Come on, no. We're going to go over all of this. We're in stage 1 restrictions right now. If you have a question, please call us 928-541-1016. Here's your chance to talk to somebody who really knows what they're talking about where the Forest Service is concerned and fire suppression and mitigation, which is something that we do want to talk about a little bit later. Now, we were talking about stage 1 restrictions, and there was a whole lot of don't. Now you're talking about exemptions because there are plenty of things people can do. All right. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, under the stage 1 restriction, that there are still things that you can use your public lands for in regards to this. So, if you are camping in those areas that are, dispersed camping, you can use the liquid propane tanks as far as cooking or any of that stuff. So, again, don't use open wood burning fires or charcoal, but you can still be in those areas. We're not saying you can't camp there or recreate or do anything there. We're just saying you need to be using the propane method.
Okay.
And then as far as the recreational target shooting, I know that was the big hot topic, or can be at times.
Right.
But what we're saying is that, unless you're engaged in a lawful hunt, you can't be recreational target shooting on the national forest.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But yeah, as far as the rest of the restrictions or exemptions, that's really it in terms of stage 1 fire restrictions.
Okay. Now, if we approach stage 2, we're talking about far more restrictions. And again, as you've said, this is something that is considered carefully. This is not just, okay, it's dry, it's getting worse, we're afraid, things. There's a lot of considerations that are taken into effect by all the jurisdictions. But generally, it seems you move as one, particularly when we get further into fire season.
Yeah, and so we manage the national forests, all the Forest Service lands, and with the restrictions, what we want people to be clear on, because I take a lot of phone calls sometimes that cover, or I'll get asked like, can I have a fire in my backyard, or can I can I use my Traeger barbecue? And here on this map right here, this is all of the area that the Prescott National Forest manages.
Okay.
So when it comes to your private or your local city questions, just be aware of who you need to contact. That's the important thing as far as all the stage 1 restrictions, working with all these partners and everything. This map just shows that, as you see the hashed mark out area, those are all of our areas on the Prescott National Forest that fall under that stage 1 restriction.
Now, here's a question for those who might not have been here for long. The Prescott National Forest is divided into 2 areas. What are these 2? Is this the Chino District and the Bradshaw District? Explain, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so on the left side of this picture here, you have 2 districts. You have the Bradshaw Ranger District, which would be on that southern portion, which covers most of the Prescott, and going towards the southern end of the forest, you're looking all the way down towards Crown King.
Okay.
And then the Chino Valley Ranger District, you're looking at Chino Valley, and then Iron Springs, north of Iron Springs area. So Granite Mountain and all of those other, I guess, north of Granite Mountain, all the way up to that checkerboard area, which is just south of I-40. It would be the Chino Valley Ranger District.
Okay, and then to the right is the Verde. We're covering the Verde area.
Correct. And there is a chunk actually off of the 89 that is a part of the Chino